Hi everyone, this is the first video for our workshop class and it relates to the first sketching portfolio where we're covering the fundamentals of perspective drawing. When we're learning about the fundamentals of perspective, we tend to draw things that we recognize, geoform primitives, cubes, cylinders, cones, pyramids and spheres. Basically, when we draw something in perspective, we're actually representing that object with volume and depth. For example, if I just take this box, if I drew that just as a rectangle flat, it's got no depth and no volume. To communicate this box as having depth and volume, of course, I need to be able to see the other surfaces which are going to communicate that three-dimensionality. And we can draw this in various perspectives. 1 point, 2 point, and 3 point perspective. Ultimately, we want to get to a point where we can freehand estimate our perspective sketching, but we're going to start with the full construction where we have vanishing points and horizon lines on the page. So I want you to take note that even though I'm showing you constructed perspective sketching, and what that means is we have vanishing points and our horizon line drawn on the page, these sketches that you're going to submit for me to be assessed are going to be estimated, which means there's no horizon line, there's no vanishing point. This is the training ground for you to understand the concepts of perspective and the fundamentals, the basic rules of perspective. From here, we need to move on to estimated perspective, but apply the fundamentals, okay, the rules of perspective. So if I'm just going to draw a box, doesn't matter what proportion, we have horizontal line, which is parallel to the horizon line. I have vertical lines, which are perpendicular to the horizon line, parallel to each other. And if I square that off, I've got one face of my box that is square to our view, square to our angle of view. We have 4 corners, and to show depth, we're going to project those corners to the vanishing point. Turn your page, do a couple of ghost lines, nice and light, and just try and project through that point. Please, no rulers. Nice and light. So there I have these corners, which are the horizontal surfaces of this box, and they go all the way to the vanishing point. Now I can choose how deep or how long I want that box to be. In 1 point perspective, remember, vertical lines perpendicular to the horizon line, horizontal lines parallel to the horizon line. So pay attention to that being parallel. I'm going to draw through, which means I'm drawing transparently, as if this was just a wireframe. When it hits that projected line, there's my far side horizontal edge. And really, that shape, which is a square, would be a smaller version of the front face here, because it's just in perspective. Then, of course, you come back in with your heavier line weight and define the object as a solid. And of course, you can rotate your page as you go along. And there's our box. Now, I want you to practice this where you're drawing with the horizon line and vanishing point, because what you need to start to understand too is that wherever you draw your objects in relation to the horizon line and the vanishing point, you're going to get a different angle of view. So this object is drawn above our eye level. If I have something above my eye level, I should be able to see the bottom of it. And I can. Here's the base, right? Here's the underside of this object. This has to become second nature when you're sketching, okay? If I draw an object below the horizon line, I should be able to see the top. So let's draw a box below the horizon line. This is 1-point perspective, so vertical lines are perpendicular to the horizon line. Horizontal lines are parallel to the horizon line. There's our 4 corners. You can either project from the vanishing point to the corner or the corner to the vanishing point, up to you. Rotate your page, ghost over the top, use that fluid arm motion, nice and light. And again, you'll have to determine and just practice with different types of pens that allow you to get nice light line work, but also allow you to define your line work heavier. And that could be a ballpoint pen, it could be a fine liner. Okay, if I want to establish the depth of this box, I'm going to say it's that deep. This line needs to be parallel to the horizon line. This line needs to be perpendicular to the horizon line and parallel to all my other vertical lines. And of course, where it crosses these projecting lines to the vanishing point, that's going to give me my back edge. Okay, always draw transparently. It allows you to check your proportions. You'll notice later on when we go to sketch a lot more complex objects, drawing transparently and knowing exactly where those hidden features are going to help you considerably. So let's just come over the top of this to define it as a solid object. The important thing here is when you go over your sketch with heavier line weight, it defines the object. But what will also happen then is the light construction lines that got you here, you just leave them on the page. Okay, so there's a box drawn below the horizon line and I see the top surface. Another thing you'll recognize by practicing this is that when you draw your object to the left of the vanishing point, you'll see the right face, the right vertical face of that object. When you draw your object to the right of the vanishing point, you'll see the left face. Here, the right face is hidden, right? Because it's pointing in the other direction. If I draw a box where the left edge is on the vanishing point, let's say above the horizon line, and straight through that vanishing point, and say the box is a taller one, right? Taller than it is wide. I'm still going to apply the rules where vertical lines are perpendicular to the horizon line, horizontal lines are parallel to the horizon line. I have my 4 corners. Your corners project to the vanishing point, but because they are aligned with the vanishing point, that's already there. I project vanishing point to the corners, or vice versa. Now I establish how deep I want this box to be. Let's say it's going to be, this is the underside of the box, right? Because it's drawn above my eye level. So if I have the box that deep, so that's parallel to the horizon line, all I need to do then is project this corner up, because all vertical lines are perpendicular to the horizon line. Where it intersects that projected line to the vanishing point, when I square that off horizontally, that's the top surface of my box, but I'm not going to be able to see it if it's a solid box because this is hidden. But we're just drawing through, we're drawing as a wireframe. I come over with my heavier line weight to establish the object as a solid. Notice I keep turning my page so I can just project nice straight lines. And this whole left side is all aligned. All those points are directly in alignment with the vanishing point. So I've actually drawn a box, 1 point perspective, where the left face is right on the vanishing point. And because it's drawn above the horizon line, I can see the underside surface. Okay, so this is like riding a bike with training wheels on, where the training wheels are the vanishing point and the horizon line on the page. So let's say I draw a box, let's say here, and this is 1 point perspective. Still sticking with the rules, where vertical lines are perpendicular to the horizon line, horizontal lines are parallel to the horizon line, 4 corners project to vanishing point. A couple of ghost lines, okay, so there's all my convergence to the vanishing point. Decide how deep I want this box to be. I'm going to say the box is quite long and deep. This line needs to be parallel to the horizon line, perpendicular to the horizon line, perpendicular, and of course there's the back face, and here are my edges projecting back to vanishing point. You can see that we see quite a bit of that top surface of this box. Now this is important when you want to decide, when you're trying to decide, or you have an idea of the angle of something that you want to draw. And because you know this automatically, if you want to draw something from an like an underside view, you know that you're going to be drawing it above the horizon line. If you want to draw something where you can see a lot of the top surface, you'll draw it below the horizon line. If you want to draw something where it's at eye level, so let's draw one at eye level. And these are just boxes, right? But it's just the same principles, fundamentals. Here's the face that's square to us, that's flat to our view. I'm applying horizontal and vertical lines to our rule, okay, perpendicular and parallel. I'm doing the same thing, projecting the corners to the vanishing point or through the vanishing point. That's going to give me my depth. And lines that are close to the horizon line can be quite difficult, okay? Lines that are close to the horizon line can be quite difficult. But just follow the rules. Vertical line, perpendicular to the horizon line. Horizontal lines parallel to the horizon line. Where it intersects, I can come straight down. Oops. And that should be parallel. Parallel to horizon line. There I've drawn through, it's like a wireframe box, and now I'm going to come in with my heavier line weight and define the object as a solid. So this object is drawn at our eye level, and you'll notice at our eye level we cannot see the top surface or the bottom surface. We can see it here because we've drawn it in transparently, right? But as a solid object, we can't see the top or the bottom. So by practicing this formal construction in 1-point perspective, and we'll be doing this in 2-point perspective as well, the more and more you do this, the more proficient you'll be at being able to draw perspective. Even before starting to draw, you'll actually know where you're going to place your object. So I'm just going to, for consistency, just hatch out the left vertical side to these boxes and any underside surface that is visible. But that is 1-point perspective boxes fully constructed using the horizon line and vanishing point on the page. Okay, so now that we've done 1-point perspective rectilinear volumes, let's explore that a little bit in terms of other planar perspective volumes in 1-point perspective. So let's say, for example, I wanted to draw a 4-faced pyramid. I'm just going to draw a horizontal line and say my pyramid base is going to be about that wide. I project back to the vanishing point or through the vanishing point. Here I'm just going to estimate, well, a pyramid has a square base. So I'm going to estimate where this horizontal line makes that look like a square in perspective. Again, horizontal lines are parallel to the horizon line. My intention is to draw a pyramid, so I don't need to draw a square face, but I do need to find where the center of that square base is. Of course, in our basic geometry, we understand that when you cross the diagonals of any square or rectangle with 90-degree corners, you're going to find the midpoint. And of course, you can go straight up, and this should be perpendicular to the horizon line. And anywhere along there would be the point of my pyramid. So I choose a point there, and then with each of these corners, project up through that point, just lightly constructing. And as usual, we're drawing transparently so we can see the inside edge. And then we can come back with heavier line weight to define our object. Turning my page as I go along. And having enough contrast in my defining lines where the light construction lines just add character and information to the sketch. So there we have square base pyramid pointing upwards, and all we had to do is find the midpoint of that base. If I wanted to draw a 4-sided pyramid but it's turning on its side in 1-point perspective, so I would do this. Let's say it's below the horizon line. My vertical lines are perpendicular to the horizon line. I have top and bottom. I project to or through my vanishing point, or vice versa. Here I'm going to proportion this vertical face as a square and then adhere to the rules where my vertical lines are still perpendicular to the horizon line and parallel to each other. And for this to be believable, this needs to look like it's a square in proportion, right? Then I cross my diagonals. This is all light construction lines. Cross my diagonals to find midpoint. And if I'm drawing the point of my pyramid pointing out this way, this is going to be a line that is horizontal and parallel to the horizon line. So anywhere along that line is the point of my pyramid. I'll say it's, say, that long, and then follow the rules, just project a line to each corner. To construct those surfaces of the pyramid, tilted to its side, pointing to the left. So there it is. Come back with heavier line weight. And of course, making sure that my vertical lines are perpendicular to the horizon line. So there we go. We'll do just one more pyramid. Let's say above the horizon line this time. Here I'm just projecting from the vanishing point. Then this is going to be, I'm going to have the pyramid pointing downwards. So same thing, just remind myself, horizontal lines parallel to the horizon line. I need to proportion this so that this looks like a square in perspective. If indeed I do want it to look like a pyramid, I'd like to have that look like it's a square. We cross the diagonals to find the center. And this is true with any square or rectangle. We find the center. Somewhere on the center of this, on this line, is going to be the point of my pyramid. Just double check that that's perpendicular to the horizon line. Choose a point. And same thing, project to each corner. Light construction, heavier line for definition. Okay, so we're just really exploring construction, the type of view that we get depending on where we draw on the horizon line or in relation to the horizon line and vanishing point. And here we're just adding some extra constructional geometry to find the center of a plane. Okay, pyramids in one point perspective.